The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Review.
Hello and welcome to Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Live Review for November 15th, 2016. The special 900th episode of Smackdown, in fact. They did have some special things on this show that we'll get into. But of course, I'm your host of this shindig, Sean Garmer, and of course, with me as always, Mr. Paul Leazar.
Heyo.
And making the W2M crew all together now, Mr. Gary Vaughn.
What is up?
Yeah, so guys, they hyped up this SmackDown 900. They packed it with some old guys. They hyped up Survivor Series, everything else. As a whole, did you feel like it lived up to the billing of a 900 episode?
Not really. They had some big stuff happen on here, but none of it really felt super special or anything like that, at least to me. Obviously Edge and Undertaker are two staples of SmackDown from the past, but Edge's role was certainly diminished because he did his lines and that was it. He didn't really do anything else. We'll talk about Taker later, I'm assuming. But
Gary?
Yeah, really, honestly, this was a little bit more of a letdown than it was a surprise or anything and just exciting. I really felt like it was going to be better. I thought they were going to hype it a little bit more. I don't know. It just kind of fell flat on its face, at least on TV. Maybe if you were live in the crowd, it was good, but on TV, I don't really care.
Yeah, we should probably, start with, there was a lot of hype for Survivor Series on this show. They once again were hyping a lot of the, that 10-on-10, just the 5-on-5 Survivor Series, main event guys against each other. And this is where, they had kind of hyped it up throughout the show, but they kind of waited until the end to sort of do this, where they have them kind of come out, have the SmackDown team come out for the cutting edge, and you have some funny stuff with James Ellsworth and Edge, which was I enjoyed that quite a bit there, where AJ just cut them off, and I didn't even realize what time it was during it. Honestly, I had not looked at the clock at all. I didn't realize that SmackDown and nobody basically finished. It was like 9:55 on the East Coast here. And I'm like, oh yeah, we haven't seen Undertaker yet. So they keep playing around with this whole, oh well, what if we lose? What if we lose? Like, oh no, we're not going to lose. And then kind of, we have more dumb stuff said. And Ambrose talks about the title and all that kind of stuff. And then, oh, here comes Gong, and The Undertaker shows up. Luckily, SmackDown was still on the air by the time The Undertaker got to the ring. And yeah, he lets you know that WrestleMania will no longer define him because he is back. Taking souls and digging holes, guys. And that if you fail, you will have a reason to fear him. He did give Shane some props for being the man without fear as well. And says that Team Raw better rest in peace. I'm sure we'll hear all the pundits, not including us. I don't know. Obviously, we'll discuss right now how we feel about it. But out of all the things I thought I would hear, something more along the lines of Undertaker being back and sort of we're going to see him more often. Wow. it just amazes me every time we have this talk about, oh, he's broken down. Oh, he's gonna retire. Didn't he himself say he was done, or it looked like he was gonna be done, and then now he's back. I mean, wow, just crazy.
I really have to think that this is just a retirement run. Like, if they're going to do Survivor Series to WrestleMania, they'll cap it all off with a big whatever they're going to do at that, and hopefully that will be it, because I like SmackDown the way it is, and having Taker around, or these larger-than-life figures from the previous generation, feels like it takes away from what SmackDown's supposed to be about. And as far as him being around goes, in the short term, it's okay. He deserves a good retirement run. He deserves to have whatever he can put together, or whatever he still thinks he can put together at this point. And, I mean, I know a lot of people were hoping he would take Shane's place at Survivor Series. I would be completely okay with that, just because Survivor Series has that big association with Taker's debut and everything else, and it makes sense, but I don't know about how I feel having a full run again, but if it's just from this to WrestleMania, that's completely okay.
Yeah, see, that's my thought process too, kind of, that this could be a last run situation. But saying all that, really, is this really going to be that big a deal? Are they going to showcase The Undertaker the way that he needs to be showcased? I don't know. I'm not sold that it's going to be exactly like we're thinking. Saying all that, though, I mean, I guess it's nice that you are going to at least get to see him on a more regular basis if you're an Undertaker fan, and maybe that draws more eyes to the product. But still, I mean, this guy is not a spring chicken, despite the fact that he can dye his hair, despite the fact that he can do a few things to try to make himself look younger. So I'm a little bit in between on how I feel about this.
I'm okay with it. I mean, SmackDown's been doing okay ratings-wise, but I think obviously anything you can do to kind of give it a boost, and let's be honest, I mean, they could have picked Raw to have him come back and be the main guy on or whatever. They picked SmackDown. It shows that they at least care, and I think Edge is just a one-time thing, so I'm not necessarily worried about that. It's not like, even if Undertaker is on every SmackDown, which I don't think he will be from now to WrestleMania or whatever, I think it gives SmackDown that little extra rub or whatnot. And let's be honest here, maybe Undertaker takes down a couple of guys and it builds up to this big match or whatnot, but I think he's going to be putting over some people on his way. It's not going to be Undertaker just comes in and let's destroy everyone. He's not going to be the Roman Reigns of SmackDown. I would not be surprised at all. They had AJ talk a lot during that entire segment. Having an AJ Undertaker match at whether it's TLC or Royal Rumble, I mean, I'm not going to say no to that. If that's the reason why you have Undertaker around, so you can have that kind of match. And I mean, it's been a long time since we've had Cena Undertaker. I wouldn't have a problem if we finally got it. I mean, would it be cool if he has a match with, say, somebody else? I'm sure there'll be some spots here and there. Just, I'm not gonna totally poo-poo this, because we could get some good matches out of this thing.
Honestly, it all depends on the condition Undertaker is in. His last couple of WrestleMania matches haven't been stellar, let's be honest. And there's other caveats involved and all that, I know, but age, I think, has certainly played into all of that. I mean, that being said, Gary and Sean, I have a question for you, because me and Gary on the Raw review yesterday were talking about how big Roman Reigns was featured and all that. And now you have, if Undertaker does go into the Survivor Series spot, what if it's Reigns and Taker at the end, and then Reigns goes over, and that's the WrestleMania match? Because I have to. That was my biggest thing whenever I heard him say he's back full time. Like, it's gonna be him and Reigns at Mania.
Oh God, man, Paul. And I was already having a depressing day, and now you depress me. Tony Romo is pretty much retired, and now this happens, oh God. So I look at this.
We don't know that
And
he's
I could
retired.
totally
They're talking
see this
about
picture.
teams for him already.
No. Once he leaves the Dallas Cowboys, he no longer exists to me. So, whatever uniform he wears, it's kind of like, if the Undertaker went over and hung out, and TNA would not be Undertaker anymore. It'd just be some guy, an old man in a cowboy outfit.
Could you imagine the Undertaker wants to wrestle that bad? He goes to TNA.
Dixie, I'm yours, Dixie. Anyway, so I mean, that is probably the picture that we're looking at if this for sure is the last run. Because Paul, I didn't even put that in perspective, but Roman Reigns is getting all this nice, rub of, hey, my music is always last on every show that I'm on. Hey, doesn't that sound familiar, John Cena? It sure does. So, I hope you're wrong, but I could see it.
Not that it couldn't happen, I just don't see why. It's not like you don't have a WWE Championship on SmackDown. I just don't see like that being the thing for Reigns. I just think that there's other things for him to do here. You can why bring him back to SmackDown if you're going to have him have the match with Reigns? I just don't.
Whenever you get to Mania, you can do the big cross promotional thing again. Like there's gonna be some of that at Mania. So
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, and I know we keep talking a lot about maybe Reigns ends up with the belt again, but this is a way to move forward and still have a long-term plan for Reigns outside of being the guy carrying the belt around. And if it is a retirement run for Taker, and they're going to build up, like he's going to want to face the best of now to prove he can still go. And, of course, for WWE, that's going to be Roman Reigns.
I don't know.
I have to think so. I mean, maybe he gets AJ at Rumble or something like that, but I don't know. So,
but that's the thing, though. Like, every time Reigns is in a match with somebody that's not... I mean, Undertaker is obviously ring general. He knows what he's doing, but... We saw the match with Triple H last year. That doesn't mean anything. It's when Reigns has been in there with guys that aren't elite or of that ilk, he doesn't perform as well. Let's be honest here. People can say what they want to say. I'm hating on Roman Reigns or whatever. It's just honesty. All his big matches this year, all his great matches that he's had, I'm not saying they don't have anything to do with Roman Reigns. I'm not saying he was carried in every match. I'm saying that it helps who he has been in the ring with. Because every time he's had a match with, say, Bray Wyatt or Kane or somebody of the not AJ Styles and Seth Rollins and Chris Jericho and all those guys and Kevin Owens, the match isn't that great match we're talking about. So I would worry about not only that, just you get in a situation where it's like, is Roman gonna take care of Taker? Or whatever. I don't think that that's necessarily the. Do you want it to be your landmark moment? Sure. If that's all you're going for, and maybe it's not going to be this epic encounter, and it's not going to be this very long thing, fine. But if you want that to be like the showcase of what we're used to seeing from Undertaker in the last whatever, barring the concussion with Brock and the bad match with Bray, that's I don't know. That wouldn't be the last one I want to hang my hat on,
It's not like his match with Shane this year was a technical masterpiece. He hasn't had one of those in a while.
Well, I think the one with Shane was just kind of like a favorite of Vince. Like, all right.
Yeah, it popped headlines, and then if you do this going out, it's another thing. It's a big marquee match for WWE. It's something they can use to put Reigns over. It fits right into the wheelhouse of what they're doing right now. Whether you want to see it or not, whether you think it's going to be that big technical masterpiece, I don't think WWE cares about that.
Let's see.
They want Reigns.
I don't know. I think if Goldberg performs well, we could still see Goldberg and Taker too. So
that'll be a worse match.
Yeah. Oof. It's going to be interesting because you're going to have Undertaker in a situation where it's almost a no win, and then you're going to have Brock Lesnar in a situation where that match may not even be that interesting. So it's going to be interesting with both Undertaker and Lesnar.
Roman would do better than Goldberg. That's very true. But
yeah.
Let's see how Goldberg performs on Sunday. I mean, Brock isn't the best, barometer, but let's see. He may be so bad that they're like, all right, you had your moment in the sun, and that's it. We'll call you back for the Hall of Fame. And that'll be the end of our relationship. If he performs well, then maybe they give him the spot in the Rumble, and then maybe they set up something for WrestleMania or whatever. I mean, he could still do something for WrestleMania, just maybe it's not something as high key, because that way they don't have to worry about what he does or whatever. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Obviously, we're thinking way too far ahead here. But yeah, I mean, if you wanted to throw out matches for Taker, just to kind of put a conclusion on this, like potential Undertaker matches that you think, let's say he has a match at every SmackDown pay-per-view and the two big ones left. Who would he have a series with someone, or would he have a different opponent every time?
They probably want to do a different opponent every time. I mean, your big players over on SmackDown, if he's sticking to there, you got AJ, you got Dean, and Cena, and they'll probably stick to that unless they want to do Orton, again, for whatever reason. But I certainly think AJ and Dean would have to be top prospects there.
Yeah, I'd agree. Both of those guys would be good choices. I kind of agree with you. The reason for this last run is to have Undertaker face some of the guys that maybe he wants to face, or maybe the WWE wants to have the Undertaker as a notch on their belt, whether they win or lose. So I mean, you've got those guys. I think depending on what happens with Miz and things like that, I think Miz could be definitely an interesting candidate. I don't know. There's a few guys on this roster that are kind of young that could be interesting, but I think they're going to kind of stick to some of the veterans who can work safely with him, because like I said, Undertaker is not getting any younger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends. If, like, say, a Sami Zayn or Cesaro were to come over eventually, then I think you can throw them in the hat. But
Cesaro would be a great opponent for Undertaker.
Yeah. Oh, that must be awesome.
That would be really good.
But they did start the show with the aforementioned guy that Gary was talking about, The Miz and Dolph Ziggler. Daniel Bryan talked about, they kind of set up the show, and they also started it with the match that we knew was happening, the big one. The last time The Miz would get a shot at Dolph Ziggler here. They go about almost 20 minutes. This wasn't anywhere near as good as some of the other ones they've had, but there was still some good stuff in here. Miz still using the Daniel Bryan things, and the combo he does with the kicks, and then the running knee, and the skull crushing finale was a great near fall. Ziggler had a great little near fall there too, where Miz kicks out right at the last second, and then you have Maurice and the Spirit Squad get involved in there. Or Maurice is kind of the one that kind of turns Miz, so he gets the cradle win. And yeah, the Miz is once again your Intercontinental Champion. Wouldn't this make him like 6-time or more?
6-time. This is a 6th reign, and I don't think there's any more of a dead giveaway that Sami Zayn is winning that title this Sunday than this title change right here. Which I really wanted to see that Sami Zayn Dolph Ziggler match. I like the Miz a lot. That match I'm sure will still be just as good, but it doesn't have that same like wrestling aura around it, because I mean, like I said, The Miz is fine. Like, his runs here with Dolph have been great. This was not one of their better outings, but it was still quite good. And I think this locks in that you're going to see that IC title move over to Raw come Sunday.
Oh, well, Gary?
Wow. Yeah, that is a good, speculation because of the fact that, now the Miz is in control of the Intercontinental title. And I really was one that was surprised with that. I thought that this was going to be kind of a blow-off, kind of, give Dolph Ziggler that, last win against Miz. And then I had predicted on, when we were talking on the Monday Night Raw review, that I really felt like, we were going to go into the match of Survivor Series where we had Sami Zayn versus Dolph Ziggler. And in that match, The Miz would actually cause Dolph Ziggler to lose the IC title and blame it on Dolph and continue their feud. Now that this has taken place, that's out the window. I could honestly see, with The Miz being The Miz, he could cheat to win, but Sami Zayn winning would be a big deal now at Survivor Series, especially against a guy like The Miz. So
I think the way also that he confronted, not that it's the first time, but the way that he talked to Bryan on Talking Smack was also a dead giveaway. Because it's just that whole, who you going to root for, Bryan? You're going to have to root for me. Just totally really sticking it to him and everything. And it just totally reeks of, okay, I'm really hyping this up, that I'm great, only for him to lose at Survivor Series. And remember, Miz is not foreign to doing this kind of thing. Remember, he lost the IC title, then he won it back the next night or whatever.
He has 2 reigns at one day because of that silly WrestleMania booking they've done twice with him.
Yeah, so exactly. That's to tell you everything you need to know sometimes at the end with Miz. I'm kind of disappointed too you don't get to see the Dolph Ziggler match, but this kind of smells of very Vince, you got to have that face in the heel, and you got to have the underdog against the guy everybody hates or whatever. Miz has been good lately, so I got the benefit of the doubt that we'll get something to remember.
Yeah, I mean, Sami Zayn can work, I think, with pretty much anybody, and it's not like The Miz isn't awful. He's gotten much better, especially in the last couple of years, and when he's in there with the right guy, he can really shine, and like you've gotten to see with Dolph Ziggler during this feud, that's certainly true, and I'm sure it'll be just the same with Sami.
Yeah, just don't ask Patrick about The Miz.
yeah.
So, we do get to, we talked about one title that has ramifications for this Sunday. The other title that has big ramifications for this Sunday is, of course, Kalisto, who we haven't seen in, ages other than him beating Baron Corbin because they started this whole thing. We get Oni Lorcan sighting. The hell out of it. Anybody they could have brought from NXT. So we get Kalisto squashing Oni Lorcan basically in about 2 minutes. Just kind of what it needed to be. Have Kalisto look strong going into the match with Brian Kendrick on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, quick squash here. I mean, what you got to see, I think, from the formerly known as Biff Busick here was good. But yeah, 2 minutes, and that's all she wrote. So go Kalisto.
Does this make you think that they are going to switch the belt over here?
Yeah, I mean, with Miz winning the Intercontinental title, I think you'll have Kalisto win, send the Cruiserweight division to SmackDown, and then you'll have all the way up and down Survivor Series. They'll trade back. The brands will trade wins. So, maybe you open with the IC title, Sami wins there. You do the Cruiserweight title maybe, and then, you have Kalisto win there. I think SmackDown after tonight wins the tag team thing, which we'll talk about later. I think Raw women, they'll win theirs, and then SmackDown will win the big one. And then you'll end it with Goldberg and Lesnar.
Yeah, and we're going to do our official, predictions coming Thursday night. I'll say this. I see the writing on the wall, especially with Kalisto winning the match, and he did on this episode of SmackDown. It's interesting. It really is, because they kind of alluded to Kalisto even on Raw when Sin Cara, referencing his friend. And Sin Cara now, no matter how bad he is backstage and the things he causes, product-wise, getting into fistfights, he seems to get plenty of airtime. And now you got Kalisto finally getting airtime, and he's a nice behind the stage. So this is kind of cool to see him actually do something good, but I want to see it at Survivor Series. I want to go strong against Brian Kendrick, and if he does win, and I think he will, just right now at this moment I do, I think we kind of get things the way we wanted them, actually. So I feel pretty okay with it.
Yeah, it should be interesting what they're going to wind up doing, but hopefully this does happen, because we know SmackDown will probably treat the Cruiserweights much better. We talked about Edge showing up, we talked about The Undertaker, we had an appearance from King Booker, guys, to give the tag teams some motivation, and then the what Gary references, the gay police last week. They came with their outfits, and King Booker was all about, tell me you didn't just say that with interrupting him and all that. So that was fun for some old times there. We did have another match between Carmella and Nikki Bella to kind of set up the women being involved here. It wasn't the best at times. It certainly wasn't the worst at times, but it was actually decent for what it was. Nikki, you could definitely tell Nikki did change her hair color a little bit. And then you get the end with, I don't know exactly where it happens, with Nikki getting her teeth knocked out, or one of her teeth, or whatever it is, but she whacks Charlotte, who's sitting there in the ringside, pulls her back in, almost pulls her into the ring, and then the rest of the Raw women get involved and hit her, and then the SmackDown women kind of get involved and try to help her, and then they come from the back and get some crazy stuff going. Naomi showing Kalisto how to springboard to the outside, and I have terrible botch by Kalisto in that match. I forgot to mention. It's terrible. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good segment to hype it up, way better than the whatever that lame thing was on Raw, yesterday.
I mean, the match was what it needed to be. Carmella obviously still growing, still looking to find her way. And I mean, maybe if this was a little short, because that heat, her working the heat on Nikki was just it was a little bit of a grind. But everything from whenever Nikki finally starts firing back to the end, I thought was great, and the crowd really lit up for all the women going at each other from the different brands, and especially when Nia goes through the barricade, they got a big pop. So I mean, it made that feel very big, and it made that match seem much more important.
You were really curious, watching Raw, if they were going to do something like this. You were sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, well, the men actually got to have some action against each other. Will the SmackDown women actually face off against the Raw? And they actually had it happen. And the way they did it was completely fine, especially the fact that they gave Nikki Bella and Carmella a match that actually was a decent length of time. I at first honestly felt like that this was going to be kind of short-lived. I was surprised they give those two that long. Still fine, not a bad match. It was what it was. And then the whole brawl, and it's good. It gives you that incentive to wonder how is it really going to shake out when we get to Survivor Series. And I was okay with all of it. I mean, it didn't do anything extraordinary for me, but it was kind of fun. I do like the fact that they had, of course, Charlotte come down, pretending she's a fan, has a ticket, all that stuff. So it was good. Not a problem. I just think she should have came down like Dean Ambrose, with some popcorn, a soda, So, but
it's kind of not Charlotte's stick.
She should have had a New Day shirt on, buying some, some merchandise.
Yeah, you got to fit in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They did have all the SmackDown women on talking smack later as well, which I thought was a good. They hyped up a lot of Nikki's tooth being knocked out, which was the majority of the segment, sort of. It was kind of like a raw for the SmackDown women, but it was kind of cool to see them all be there and Brian getting involved and getting to kind of hype it up. And I at the end of the day, even though you'd say that yes, the Raw women have the bigger names, very much like most of what Raw is anyway. The SmackDown women have looked better and look like they're sort of progressing more as how much the crowd seems to care about them and whatnot. I think Carmella kind of sticks out like a sore thumb compared to the other ones, but I think you could say the same for Nia or even Alicia Fox, who's been there. Not a lot of people care about her, so I think for me, the SmackDown women look better, and I like the fact too that they didn't just repeat what you got yesterday. They didn't just have the same. Oh well, the Raw guys showed up again. They had the Raw women show up, so it makes it feel different, and that you're highlighting something else on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would agree because of the fact that we watch this product so often. We've seen them in NXT, a lot of these stars, and we follow them. Now, casual fans, I think they would disagree with you. I think casual people who just watch, maybe Raw and SmackDown would think that the, Raw edition's better. They got bigger names. They got all, but from our point of view, watching all the different, NXT, everything that we do watch, I think we can appreciate the SmackDown women, and I think we can understand them to a certain point more than maybe just the casuals do. And real quickly, what did you guys think of King Booker? Were you surprised to see King Booker?
That was a nice surprise, actually. I thought that segment was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, it was just, the gay police. The fashion police coming in was kind of funny. So
God.
I enjoyed it.
Him telling him to go put on the blue shirt was great.
Yes.
Put this on. Go over there.
Oh, man.
We mean no offense to anybody that is,
No,
I'm not at all. We're just it's
I think homosexuals would understand where I'm coming from because it's a YMCA gimmick and all that. It's fine. It's not making fun of them because of that. To me, and I think homosexuals would agree, it's kind of gay.
You had the big match that they had was sort of the Survivor Series, kind of like a preview with the tag teams. Was Slater and Rhino were at ringside for this. They were not involved in the match. Larry, I think, has it wrong here. It's Ryder and Mojo, Usos, Fandango and Tyler Breeze and American Alpha against Spirit Squad, Headbangers, Vaudevillains, and essentially basically the jobber teams against the SmackDown live actual representative teams. This kind of ended as you would expect. Was a little bit surprised. It seemed like the Usos were a little bit too okay with just all of a sudden going back to how they used to be. Other than that, I did like the fact that they purposely seemed to avoid slapping hands with American Alpha, so it's one of those little things that I think not a lot of people are going to notice, but that is nice, and that they made sure that they were on opposite ends too, so you still have the tension, but you don't have to sit there and have them fight either. Mm-hmm. Overall, I thought it was a fun match.
This was fine, I think, for what it was. Certainly, this is all the teams on SmackDown, and largely the ones on the one side of the ring matter, which is more than Raw can say, certainly. So, there is that on display here. Other than that, it's fine. It was a little slow for me at times, but I liked Ryder's spots. I thought, American Alpha are always great too. So.
Yeah, Gary.
I was not a big fan of this. I just was kind of honestly a little bit bored with it. Maybe it's just I'm not super enthralled with the tag teams right now for some reason. At least in this format, I get so bored sometimes of the tag team, multiple man tags like this, and it worked. It wasn't awful or anything. I just kind of found myself just kind of like, okay, can we get to the next thing? So, and nothing against the guys. It may be just not my favorite thing.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the best match in the world, honestly, but I did appreciate some of it. Like, I thought the Ascension, Brian highlights on Talking Smack, the Ascension looked actually pretty decent here. They were the only team on that side that looked sort of decent, but that's not really saying a whole lot when they kind of all looked bad. But it is the golf and the tag teams right now with SmackDown. You have like the 4-5 teams that matter, and then you have your 4 teams that are just whatever, and 2 of them that were just seemingly brought back to add depth, and that's all they're gonna do. So, it is what it is. I think that sort of covers everything from SmackDown. I did I forgot to mention that. I don't know if you guys. I did listen to you guys last night. I don't know that you guys touched on this though. That between last night and between Raw and SmackDown on this show, it's like WWE all of a sudden somebody told Vince or someone in the writing room, "Hey, we need to make more pop culture references." It's like we gotta have them in the show. And so we have this segment with Alexa Bliss where she is talking to Daniel Bryan about the whole, hey, I had my foot on the rope in that match, and I shouldn't have lost or whatever. And then Natalya comes in and tries to do a teaching moment where she quotes the Chumbawamba song, "I get knocked down, I'll get up again," and Alexa Bliss calls her out on it. And on Raw, I think they did it like 2 or 3 times. And it's like, when you try really hard, it just makes you come off really bad. Do they not understand that point? Like, it's like TJ Perkins with the video game references. Just, they're not needed, people. Just have them talk normally. That would actually make them appeal more to your common audience. I mean, Gary, I know you, you make jokes, whatever, but do you just go around just shouting random pop culture stuff in normal conversation?
You're asking the wrong person. Yeah, I do.
But I'm not saying like you're having a serious conversation with somebody, and I'm just gonna randomly drop this line from this song. Just
Yeah, no, honestly, when you're actually in a business type situation and you're having a conversation with an employer, you don't make reference to things like that because you're trying to be serious. And of course, this is Daniel Bryan we're talking about. This is also wrestling, so I get why they would do it. But Natalya's been doing this for a while, and I've actually kind of enjoyed it. Whether it may be serious or not serious, I really have. And sure, doesn't make Natalya look silly, but man, that's what their favorite thing to do is make Natalya look silly. So there you go.
Not wrong.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of the Chumbawamba song, though, so I appreciated it.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like what I do a lot of times, pissing the night away.
It's true.
People wonder sometimes if that's what we do on the show. But anyway. So let's get into the rating for this show so we can get on the heck out of here.
Outside of the women's stuff, and I guess the main angle of the evening, if you really want to call it that, there wasn't a whole lot to sink your teeth into. The opening match was good too. I can't take that away from it. This I think solid 6 here.
This was actually something that I kind of thought about because of what I rated Raw last night, and I did give Raw a 7. I thought they did some things that were actually entertaining. Some things that kind of kept me interested. This one was not as much. Was it awful? It wasn't awful. It was about a 6 for me too, because it just was not the standard.
Yeah, it was just kind of there. The Undertaker segment was, Paul made the joke of, well, win or die. Undertaker should take that on the road or something. But I agree that, yes, you're putting fear into them losing, but it seemed kind of like, okay, Undertaker just kind of coming out at the end to deliver this promo, and the crowd just getting really weird at times. Like, okay, he's cutting a promo, and you're saying he's still got it? I mean, come on, guys. Like, come on. But, they chanted holy shit because he walked to the ring. I mean, okay. But, yeah, I mean, aside from that, you had like Paul just kind of mentioned the big things on this show. And when that's in your 2 hours, that's your kind of big stuff. They did a normal, just the generic, here's our hype to Survivor Series, but it wasn't anything that makes you go, okay, now I want to watch the show. And that's an issue. I guess it doesn't matter because of the network and whatever, but that is a problem. I want to be more hyped for the show that's going to come on Sunday that I'm paying $9.99 to watch,
You said hyped, and I started thinking the Hype Bros theme song should have played right there.
Yep. Thankfully, sadly, I don't have that kind of connections. But
Mojo comes bursting into your room, trying to get you hype.
I hope he's really pissed at Mojo right now. He'd wake up my daughter, my dog, everybody. We'd be hearing barking all over the end of this show. It'd be good. But,
okay, the other hype bro, our friend, I'm already blanking on his name, but he has plenty of toys, so he could give your daughter a few toys. She could bring her back to sleep.
But Zack Ryder just walks around with.
He's a big collector, man.
Yeah,
I'm jealous.
True,
it's like the whole Ghostbusters collection. I'm freaking jealous.
Wonder what Emily has to think about that. But they go into. All right. Well, we're done with SmackDown here for this week. Of course, we still haven't done our Part 1 episode, so if you're listening to this first, you can go in and listen to our WWE Part 1 episode talking about ROH and the whatever news has been going on. I can't think right this minute. And, of course, make sure you're in there for that Part 2, Episode 221, because it is going to be a huge show. 3 different previews we're going to be doing on that one show. Not to mention the regular shows that we talk about on the Thursday edition. So you don't want to miss that. Maybe an extra long edition. Who knows? Hopefully not. But it'd be really hard to imagine we could do 3 big previews and all these shows and whatever news has been going on in less than 2 hours. But you never know. And of course, make sure you check out WWE Network for the rest of the great shows that we have. Jobber's Court has a show there. Foxy and Squid just had their show, which culminated with them crying about some song they were listening to. I don't know. I have headphones off at that point. But crying should be enough for you when I go listen to that. And then, of course, check out WWEnet.com. We just had a bunch of wrestling content go up at once. So, check out Paul's Lucha Underground review. Cody had an issue with his computer. The NXT review would have been up earlier. The last Total Bellows review is up there, and now Jeremy is going to be kind enough to do Total Divas for us as well. So we'll have Total Divas reviews every week for those of you that are really... now they got 3 new characters and 3 new men that are going to be on the show that haven't been on very often. And The Miz, Dean Ambrose, and... why am I blanking on the other person that they added this year? Damn it. I don't want to be here all day, so we'll just move on. And, yeah, just plenty of stuff to go check out on WWEnet.com. if you're a video games person, it's seeming like every day I'm adding some kind of review that somebody did. So make sure you check that out, and we will see you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.